Hey guys, John V here from Phone Arena. Right now you're watching our video comparison between the Apple iPad Air and the Microsoft Surface Pro 2. This time around, it's actually Microsoft that's out of the gate first with the Surface Pro 2. It's similar to last year's model, but being the successor, it has new hardware and also an updated software experience. Naturally, the Surface Pro 2 is poised to compete against the iPad Air. Now, this year's model, it has a redesign which is thinner and lighter than previous iPads before, and it's also seeing a new experience in the form of iOS 7. We like the designs of both tablets. They have some really nice quality elements with their designs, some sturdy construction, some premium choice materials, so they have all the elements that make them stand out. With the iPad Air, it really stands out for having a thin and lightweight construction. We barely notice it as we're holding it in our hand, and it's very comfortable when you think about it, and still has a very premium quality thanks to its brushed aluminum casing. It definitely has a solid industrial design thanks to its Vapor Mag chassis and of course those angular cutouts, which gives it a very refined and distinctive look. But the thing with the Surface Pro 2 is that it's just super heavy and bulky, and also just harder to hold in the hand just because of the weight and of course the sharpness around the edges. There's nothing really new with the displays on either tablets. They're the same ones used by their predecessors. So with the iPad Air, it's a 9.7-inch 2048 by 1536 Retina display, which is an IPS LCD panel, and it gives it a pixel density count of 264 pixels per inch. In contrast, the Microsoft Surface Pro 2 features a slightly larger 10.6-inch 1920 by 1080 IPS LCD panel, which gives it a pixel density count of 208 pixels per inch. On paper, the iPad Air's display might have the better pixel density count over the Surface Pro 2's display, but quite frankly, they're both very sharp, and from a normal viewing distance, it's almost indistinguishable as to which one's the superior between the two. Seeing that they're both IPS LCD panels, they have similar characteristics. So with that, they produce some very natural looking colors, though with the Surface Pro 2, it tends to be a little bit on the warmer side. Viewing angles are fantastic with them too, but the iPad Air just seems to maintain its clarity better at wider angles. And the brightness output's pretty nice with both too, strong and potent. So when it comes to outdoor visibility, we don't have any issues using the two. Between the two, we really appreciate how the Surface Pro 2 offers more versatility just because it features ports that are more akin to today's laptops, whereas with the iPad Air, the only connection port we have here is just the Lightning docking port, which is used for power and data connectivity and also video out, but you need a special adapter for that. On the Surface Pro 2, though, we have a display out port for video out. You have a micro SD card slot, which is very handy in supplementing its internal capacity. You have the magnetic power port, so even if you accidentally yank it, it's not going to ruin the port itself just because it just dislodges. You have also on the other side here a full-size USB 3.0 port, so you could also connect a variety of peripherals to it. And you also have the last thing here, which is on the bottom, which is another magnetic connection here used for the optional Touch and Type 2 keyboards. Another thing worth pointing out is the kickstand that's available with the Microsoft Surface Pro 2. It's something we don't see with tablets, so it's great that it's there. It provides us with a fantastic video watching experience, so you have two different angles to choose from. And the other thing about it is if you're using the optional keyboards, it's just nice that you could use it in your lap too. For being a powerhouse tablet, you'd think that Microsoft would have armed the Surface Pro 2 with better cameras this time around, but sadly it's not the case. Same ones from last year, so that means a 1 megapixel front and rear camera. As for the iPad Air, sporting a larger 5 megapixel autofocus rear camera and a 1.2 megapixel front facing one. So here are the respective platform experiences. On the iPad Air, it's iOS 7, and on the Surface Pro 2, it's Windows 8.1. Both were recently updated in time for the release of the two tablets here. We won't go into too much detail regarding the new features with the respective platform experience, but instead just compare what we like about the two and we don't like. Now with the iOS 7 experience of the iPad Air, it has a dramatic redesign over the previous software. It employs this new layer design, some translucency effects, and even some new animations to give it a very poppy and refreshing look. But for the most part, it still lays claim to being a very simplified and intuitive experience. At the same time though, the Surface Pro 2 sees its own share of enhancements with Windows 8.1. It still stands out for its dynamic start screen with all those live tiles that aggregate a bunch of different things. This time around, there's a little bit more personalization control, seeing that we could modify the sizes of those tiles themselves and we could better organize them as well. But underneath it all, it's still a desktop platform, meaning that it runs the full Windows 8.1 experience. So if you're used to using particular software on a computer, you can run it all here with the Surface Pro 2. Notifications are better handled with the iPad Air just because as you swipe down from the top bezel, we'll gain access to the notification center. And this is the centralized hub where all our notifications come in, so we can access it at any time very easily. On the other hand, the Surface Pro 2, it's a little bit more disorganized just because the live tiles themselves provide us those notifications. So depending on where they're at, you have to actually look around for them. However, it's the Surface Pro 2 that offers the superior multitasking experience. With the iPad Air, it's handled the same way we're used to. We could either double press the home button, we're going to get the small windows, and from here we could quickly jump in and out of different applications, or we could use the 5-finger swipe gesture to actually quickly move between open applications, but it doesn't prove as effective or as practical compared to the implementation found with the Surface Pro 2, where actually if you want to load up 2 applications, you could do that very quickly. Let's say you have the web browser open and you want to open another application, you can just quickly swipe it over. And the nice thing about it is that we can adjust the windows to our liking so we could have a better layout between the two of them. Accessing some of the basic connectivity features is better handled with the iPad Air just because a quick swipe up from the bottom bezel, we gain access to the control center. From here, we have access to all the connectivity features, even some other things like adjusting the brightness of the display. On the Surface Pro 2 though, we actually have to go through the different settings to actually get to each one of them. Mainly because iOS has been in development for quite some time over Windows 8, it benefits by having a more diverse ecosystem of third-party applications, meaning that you're going to find a lot more of the popular third-party apps that are optimized for tablet, whereas with the Surface Pro 2 and Windows 8.1, it still is growing, which is nice, but it just doesn't have as nearly as the same amount found with the iPad Air. So this is how we put the respective platform experience. With the iPad Air, it's very simple, easy, intuitive. So if you're all about having fun with the tablet, playing some games, and even doing some web surfing, it's the ideal device for you, especially for reading books and even magazines. But with the Surface Pro 2, if you're all about getting work done and being productive, you're going to want to like it just because you have the full desktop experience. There's not one that offers a better typing experience over the other just because they have very similar qualities. So you have spacious keyboard layouts, they're super responsive, and they offer great autocorrect features. They also have split style keyboards, which is most useful when you're using the tablets in portrait, but the Surface Pro 2 has a third additional one, which is just more of a handwriting recognition. It's a fantastic experience when it comes to surfing the web on either tablet just because you have some super sharp displays, you have fast page loads, some very smooth navigational controls, and you have also instant page rendering, so it has all those quality elements that really make it so pleasing. If you buy the iPad Air, you have the ability to actually download the suite of iWorks applications for the iPad. So meaning you're going to get things like Numbers and Pages, which is an alternative to Microsoft Office. So Pages being the Word document program, Numbers being a spreadsheet one. Now, strangely, you think that Microsoft Office would be included with the Surface Pro 2, but that's not the case. It's actually available out of the box with the Surface 2 tablet, not the Pro 2. But of course, you could always install, an alternative option if you want, or just purchase the software yourself. Obviously, they're packing 2 totally different processors. Over on the iPad Air here, it's powered by the 64-bit base dual-core 1.4 GHz Apple A7 processor coupled with 1 GB of RAM. Meanwhile, with the Surface Pro 2, depending on which one you get, the configuration is going to be different. This particular one, it's powered by the 4th generation Intel Core i5 processor, which is a dual-core one clocked in at 1.6 GHz. It's coupled with 4 GB of RAM and the Intel HD Graphics 4400 GPU. Essentially, what we get out of the two of them is just a general responsive performance with pretty much all actions. So whether it's something basic like surfing the web or more processor-intensive things like playing games, they don't stutter with their performance, and it's just wonderful that they're very fast and smooth and exhibit very minimal lag, though seeing that the Surface Pro 2 is running a full desktop OS, its processor is a lot more demanding, of course. The music player with the iPad Air is a little bit more conventional. It doesn't have that modern appeal that we see with the Surface Pro 2. That's why its music player really catches our attention a lot more. As far as the audio quality, the iPad Air's speakers produce the stronger volume outtones that are far more commanding than the Surface Pro 2. At the box, there's more video codec support with the Surface Pro 2 just because it's running a full desktop OS, whereas with the iPad Air, we got to convert the videos before they're properly loaded on there. Now, they're both fantastic just because of their sharp displays and their fast performances, but the Surface Pro 2's kickstand really makes for an ideal hands-free video watching experience. The camera apps are just basic, nothing to them. They just offer us that simple experience of snapping photos, and that's it. With the iPad Air, we could take photos and videos. We have the square mode for Instagram shots, and we also have an HDR mode if you want to select that. Over on the Surface Pro 2, we have a panoramic view, and we could also adjust things like the exposure and even set a timer. It's an absolute win for the iPad Air and its larger 5 megapixel autofocus camera. In general, it just takes the sharper looking photos between the two. And the Surface Pro 2, just a lot of indistinct detail, super soft, and that's attributed to its lower 1 megapixel camera. On top of that, we like the color reproduction better on the iPad Air. It just seems more vibrant versus the muted tones out of the Surface Pro 2. And in lower lighting conditions, again, we see a slight advantage with the iPad Air, though they don't really do that great in that particular situation. Likewise, it's the iPad Air that produces the better looking 1080p videos. It's just like the details with the Surface Pro 2 are pretty much out the door. It's very grainy. It just doesn't have that sharpness and clarity that the iPad Air is able to deliver. And we just notice a lot more artifacting and noise with the Surface Pro 2. Due to the fact that it's sporting guts more akin to a PC than anything else, battery life isn't as good on the Surface 2 versus the iPad Air. In fact, we get up to roughly 7-8 hours from a full charge, whereas with the iPad Air, it easily surpasses a full day. So let's talk about pricing here for a moment. We're going to compare apples to apples. So the 64GB Wi-Fi versions of both devices. The Surface Pro 2 starts at $900, whereas the iPad Air is at $700. If we were to look at it from that point of view, it seems as though the Surface Pro 2 offers more value, being only $200 more than the iPad Air. Now, it is a tablet, bulky one at that, but nevertheless, it has some very PC-like components to it. It's far more versatile just because it has a host of different ports, and on top of that, you're getting the full Windows 8.1 experience, which is a desktop OS. At $700 though, it's a really tough sell for the 64GB Wi-Fi iPad Air, but if you want to go down a notch, just think about the $500 option. Of course, you're going to have the lower memory capacity, but nonetheless, at a starting point of $500, you're still getting a good amount of value with the iPad Air. Just because it's a thin and light tablet, it's something you want to use on the go, very easy to travel around, and of course, it still has a host of quality third-party applications just because of its diverse ecosystem. At the end of the day, if you're all about having fun with a tablet and you want something that's simple, it's a no-brainer decision to go with the iPad Air. Sure, you might want to think about that $700 cost for the 64GB version, but the $500 option is a lot more pleasing. As for the other side, the Surface Pro 2, if you're all about productivity, getting work done, a power user, no doubt this is a tablet for you. It's going to double as your PC, so you don't have to have two separate things. So if you guys want to learn more about either the iPad Air or the Surface Pro 2, you can check out our website, phonearena.com. John V. Thanks for watching.